Good morning, my dear children. Today we will study chapter 10, The Storm, written by Walter Farley. So, before starting, let's know about the author Walter Farley. He was an American author and he wrote stories of horses for children. His most famous and first work was The Black Stallion. He wrote many sequels, and the series has been continued since his death by his son Stephen. He learned all about horses from his uncle, who was a professional horseman. Now let's read the chapter. A young boy, Alec, is sailing home to America after visiting his uncle in India. When the ship called the Drake stops at a port, a group of men drag a beautiful, untamed black stallion on board. Alec loves horses and is captivated by this animal that won't let anyone come near him. In a bid to befriend the horse, which is called the Black, Alec starts leaving lumps of sugar at its stall every night. One night, a terrible calamity strikes the ship. What happens to the boy and the horse? After reading this introduction, it's quite clear that the story is about a boy, Alec, who is going to America to his home after visiting his uncle in India, and a black stallion whose name is Black. So the story is about a horse, Black, and boy, Alec, and the building of friendship and trust, and what happens to their friendship, to the trust, one night when a terrible calamity strikes the ship. See the first paragraph. The night was hot and still. Heavy clouds blacked out the stars, and long streaks of lightning raced through the sky. The Black had his head out the window, his ears pricked forward, his nostrils quivering, his black mane flowing. Alec could not turn his eyes away. He could not believe such a perfect animal existed. Just then the Black turned, whistled as he saw the boy, and again faced the water. So in this paragraph, the night is portrayed as gearing up for a storm with flashes of lightning against a black sky. And Alec thought that the stallion was perfect. Why? Because he was fascinated with the black's head, with its flowing mane, with ears pricked forward and curving nostrils. Curving means to shake, or little motion was there in his nostrils. And it shows that Alec knew about horses and he liked this one. Then what happened? Black turned, he whistled as he saw the boy, and again faced the water. So what does it mean when horse Black whistled? It means that it was trying to be friendly with the boy. Alec felt elated. It was the first time that the stallion hadn't drawn back into the stall at the sight of him. Moving closer, he held out the sugar in the palm of his hand to the stallion. The Black turned and whistled softly this time. Stall means a small covered area in which animal is kept, and elated, extremely happy. Okay, so Alec was very happy when he saw that this time the stallion didn't go back into the stall as he saw him. Whenever Alec was coming to the stallion, this stallion Black moved back into the stall, but this time he did not do this, and this made Alec very happy. Alec offered Black a cube of sugar in the palm of his hand, and the Black turned and whistled softly this time. Alec stood his ground. No one had been this close to the stallion since he came on board, but Alec knew that it would not be wise to get any closer and so placed the sugar on the sill. The black looked at it, then back at the boy. Slowly he moved over and began to eat the sugar. Alec watched him for a moment, satisfied. Then, as the rain began to fall, he went back to his cabin. When Alec offered a cube of sugar in the palm of his hand, the horse whistled softly but did not take it. Alec thought not to scare the horse and he placed the sugar on a sill, and then horse ate those pieces of sugar, and Alec then knew he had made friends with the black. In the middle of the night, the drake lurched crazily, awakening Alec, who was thrown onto the floor. Outside, there were deafening rolls of thunder. His first storm at sea. He pushed the light switch. It was dead. A flash of lightning illuminated the cabin. The top of his desk had been swept clear, and the floor was covered with broken glass. Grabbing a pocket knife, which was a parting gift from his uncle, strapped on his life jacket, hoping that he wouldn't need either. Now, this was the night when storm hit the ship, and in the middle of the night, the drake. Who is Drake? Drake is the ship. The name of the ship is Drake, and it made sudden uncontrolled movements forward and backward from side to side. It was moving like crazy. And because of this, Alec, who was sleeping, he was thrown onto the floor because the ship was moving crazily. And then he tried to switch on the light, but there was no electricity. And then what happened? A sudden lightning, and because of that flash of lightning, it showed his room in a mess with shattered glasses on the floor, together with everything from his desk. All the things were thrown here and there on the floor. And after this, what happened? Grabbed a pocket knife. And who gave this knife to him? His uncle, when Alec was going back to America. So his uncle he grabbed a pocket knife gifted by his uncle and also strapped on his life jacket, and he hoped that he wouldn't need it. Opening the door, he staggered to the deck and hung on the rail. The shouts of Captain Watson and the crew could be heard faintly above the roar of the winds. Huge waves swept from one end to the drake to the other. Hysterical passengers crowded into the corridor. Alec was genuinely scared now. Never had he seen a storm like this. Now, when he opened the door of his cabin, he staggered, means he was rocking violently to the deck because the ship was moving continuously and violently. So, definitely, people in the ship were also not able to stay stable. And Alec, he hung on to the side railings are there for the protection. He was stick to that and tried to forward. The shouts of Captain Watson and crew could not be heard because the roar of the winds was so loud, and huge waves were moving the drake to this side to that side, and the passengers were extremely angry and they were frightened, and they all crowded into the corridor, and all this made Alec very scared. For what seemed hours, the drake fought wave after wave, trembling, turning on its side, yet somehow managing to stay afloat. The storm began to subside a little, and Alec felt new hope. But then there was a sharp and the ship shook. Alec was thrown flat on his face, which felt hot and sticky with blood. Then he came conscious of screaming passengers climbing, crawling, and stepping over him. Meanwhile, the drake had become still. Its engines had gone dead. And imagine how fearful situation it was. Drake was fighting wave after wave, and then still it managed to stay afloat. After few hours, the became less violent. It was controlled after few hours, and Alec felt new hope. Then suddenly there was a sharp crack in the ship, and Alec fell on his face and hurt himself badly. Then he struggled to get up. Why? Because passengers were climbing and crawling and stepping over him when he was unconscious. And then what happened? Engines of the ship were dead, and the drake had become still. Struggling, Alec pushed himself to his feet and made his way along the deck. The startled eyes took in the scene about him. The drake, struck by lightning, seemed almost cut in half. They were sinking. The crew were manning the lifeboats, and Captain Watson was shouting directions. One boat was being lowered into the water. A large wave caught it and turned the boat and its occupants into the sea. After this, what happened? Alex struggled to get up and he started moving to the deck, and he was extremely shocked, and when he got up he tried to observe what was happening there and what happened to him. He noticed that the ship was cut in half and everyone was sinking, and the crew, the people on the ship, they were operating the lifeboats, and Captain Watson was telling them what they have to do. He was giving orders, and one boat that was being lowered into the water, suddenly a large wave came and it turned the boat and everyone into the sea. The second lifeboat was being filled and Alec waited his turn, but when it came, the boat had reached its quota. Wait for the next one, Alec, Captain Watson said sternly. He put his arm on the boy's shoulder, softening the harshness of his words. Just then, Alec thought of the black, what was happening to him. Alec fought his way out of line and toward the stern of the boat. If the stallion was alive, he was going to set him free and give him a chance to fight for life. Now, the next lifeboat that was being lowered, and Alec was waiting for his turn to sit in the boat. It was already full. Lifeboat, children, is very small and many people can't sit together in it. So, by the time it was Alec's turn to sit in the boat, it was already full, and Captain Watson very strictly told Alec to wait for the next one. And he also put his arms on the boy's shoulder, because he told Alec very strictly to wait for the next one, and immediately the very next moment he tried to soften the harshness of his words by putting his arms on the boy's shoulder. And immediately Alec thought of the black. He thought what was happening to him, and he made his way to black, and he thought if the stallion was alive, he will set him free and give him a chance to fight for life. That's it for today, children. We will continue with the same chapter tomorrow. I hope you have understood till here. If there is any confusion, please ask. Thank you.